Cinderella and the Magic Slippers. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a kind young girl named Cinderella. She lived with her stepmother and her two stepsisters, who were selfish and unkind. Since her father had passed away, they made her do all the housework. While her stepsisters walked around in beautiful dresses and laughed, Cinderella had to sweep, clean, and cook from morning to night. But despite everything, she remained kind and cheerful. Every evening, she talked to the little birds and mice in the garden, dreaming of a better life. One day, a royal messenger arrived in town with exciting news. The prince was holding a grand ball at the palace. All the young women in the kingdom were invited, and maybe the prince would choose his bride. Cinderella's stepsisters were thrilled. For days they tried on colorful dresses and shiny necklaces. Cinderella, however, had nothing to wear. "I would love to go too," she said timidly. Her stepmother shrugged and replied with a mocking smile, "If you finish all your chores before we leave and find something nice to wear, then maybe you can go." Cinderella cleaned the house faster than ever, but each time she finished, her stepsisters gave her even more work to do. When the royal carriage arrived to take the young women to the ball, Cinderella was still dressed in rags, her hands covered in dust. Her stepsisters laughed as they left, leaving her alone and sad. Cinderella stepped into the garden, tears rolling down her cheeks. Suddenly, a soft light appeared in front of her. A beautiful lady in a sparkling gown stood there. "Do not cry, Cinderella," she said with a warm smile. "I am your fairy godmother. Tonight you shall go to the ball." With a wave of her magic wand, she transformed a pumpkin into a golden carriage, the mice into majestic horses, and Cinderella's old rags into a breathtaking, shimmering gown. The most magical gift, however, was a pair of golden slippers that glowed softly. "These shoes are special," the fairy explained. "They will shine as long as your heart remains pure." Then she added a warning. "But remember, my dear, at midnight the magic will disappear." When Cinderella arrived at the palace, everyone turned to look at her. No one had ever seen her before, and her kind and gentle beauty captivated the entire room. The prince, enchanted, approached her and held out his hand. "Would you honor me with a dance?" Cinderella's heart raced. She nodded, and together they danced under the golden lights of the palace. She felt free, happy, until suddenly the clock began to strike midnight. Panicked, she ran out of the palace as quickly as she could. In her haste, she lost one of her golden slippers on the palace steps. Without looking back, she climbed into her carriage just before the magic faded away. The next morning, the prince sent out a royal decree. The young woman who could fit the golden slipper would become his princess. Every girl in the kingdom eagerly tried on the shoe, hoping to be chosen. Cinderella's stepsisters desperately tried to squeeze their feet into it, but it was much too small. Then, one of the prince's guards noticed Cinderella sitting quietly in the corner. "What about her? Shouldn't she try as well?" Her stepmother scoffed. "Her? She's just a servant." But the prince insisted. As soon as Cinderella slipped her foot into the golden slipper, a soft light glowed around her. The prince immediately recognized her. "You are the one I have been looking for." Cinderella was taken to the palace, where she was reunited with the prince. This time, she didn't need magic anymore. Her kindness and courage made her the most beautiful princess of all. The king and queen welcomed her with joy, and soon she and the prince were married in a grand celebration. The entire kingdom rejoiced, and Cinderella became a beloved and respected princess, not for her beauty, but for her goodness. As for the magical slippers, they were kept safely in a glass case as a reminder of that enchanted night. From that day on, Cinderella never needed magic again, for she knew that true magic comes from kindness and hope,